The doctors said if I wasn't as fit as I was when I went into that first big surgical bout, I would have died on the bed. Given about a 20% chance then, so it was really touch and go. You can end up having a stoma for like a multitude of reasons, whether it was Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, diverticulitis, cancer, trauma. The list is like extremely long of why you could end up with a stoma.
Entrepreneur, personal trainer, rehabilitation coach and content creator. He's also the leading name and face behind the education and the awareness around stomas and IBD, Mr. Colitis Crohn's.
Yeah, so in 2013, I felt really sick, but it got so bad and I actually woke up after about 3 weeks. I started going to the toilet a lot, 40 to 50 times a day with just blood. I got diagnosed with IBD and then I opted for a stoma. I was completely lost. There was no one else that I could relate to because I couldn't see anyone that was sort of empowering me to do anything with my life, where the turning point really was.
Hello and welcome to the T2 Fit Talks podcast, where we aim to educate and inspire individuals to achieve their full potential. I am your host JT, and today in episode 13, I am joined by a very special guest, an entrepreneur, personal trainer, rehabilitation coach and content creator. Many of you will know him as Mr. Colitis Crohn's. He's also the leading name and face behind the education and the awareness around stomas and IBD. Please join me in a very, very warm welcome to Mr. Mesha, Moinirad.
Solid intro, mate.
How are you, sir?
I'm very well, my friend.
Boom. I'm very happy with that one.
That was a good intro, I'll give you that.
Fantastic to have you here. How has your day been? Because it's not been like a regular day for you, has it?
It has not, mate. It's been very good. I had all of my clients come down to your amazing facility, train them for the day here, just basically helping them to understand how to use their bodies properly now they've got something new on it. Because effectively managing a stoma isn't something that you can just do without fully understanding your body. So having the ability to come here, coach people, educate people has been amazing.
So one of the first things, I guess, to really dive into is stoma and IBD. Give us a bit of an insight into what we actually mean by that. Yeah,
so you can end up having a stoma for like a multitude of reasons, whether it was Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, diverticulitis, cancer, trauma. The list is like extremely long of why you could end up with a stoma. Obviously, I've got IBD. Now, IBD can be categorized into two conditions. You have Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. I kind of have like a split of both, which is a little bit more rare. But basically what this means is everywhere from my mouth to my anus can get inflamed. And then the sort of symptoms of that is blood in my stool, swelling of my limbs, and just discomfort basically. Fatigue's a massive one as well. So yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one to manage, and something that's very like, what's the word? Something that can affect you in like so many different ways.
Yeah. Now, take us back a little bit, because I think, is it 2013 when this all really kind of came to a head for you? Take us back to that time and kind of just, I guess, tell us about that journey for you and where it all started.
Yeah, so in 2013, I was at university. I was studying high performance coaching and nutrition. The idea was actually to move to the States because my dad lived in LA at the time, and I kind of wanted to work with really high end athletes and do their conditioning. That was like my goal at the time. And then just over the course of 5 days, I felt really sick, which was a burst appendix undiagnosed, but it got so bad that I got sepsis and my appendix burst, and it was basically left for 5 days and nearly killed me. I was given about a 20% chance then, so it was really touch and go. And I actually woke up after about 3 weeks around 5.5 stone. So I had to learn to walk, learn to eat. I had to go and live back at my mum's. It was a really horrible time, like physically, because I was like a shell of my former self. But mentally, I just didn't want to be here anymore, because I was like, I'm never going to be able to get the body that I had before, and just really like things that now don't seem a big deal, but as a 20-year-old lad was really big to me. And that's where the sort of initial journey started with my bad health. 8 months after that, I started going to the toilet a lot. And when I say a lot, I'm talking like 40 to 50 times a day with just blood. And I thought it was either something inside that wasn't stitched up properly or cancer. Because you remember on the buses, they had the blood in your stool cancer signs. I thought it was that. So probably left it a little bit longer than I should. And then again, shortly after that, I got diagnosed with IBD. Tried to manage it for 4 to 5 years with drugs and medication, never really worked. And then I opted for a stoma. And the rest is history.
So with that, it sounds like a silly question. Obviously, there's a lot of physical elements to that. And you mentioned the psychological side. Try and describe where you're at that time. You know, all these changes in a very, very quick succession, really, from being at university, studying that, and then just boom, it hits you that way. Like, how do you start to come out of that? Like, take that next step forward in any form of progression?
Yeah, I was completely lost because there was no one else that I could relate to that was going through the same thing. Everyone who was around me, for say even in the hospital, was 60 years older than me. So there was no one to really connect to. And that's where I just felt like, what's the point? Because I couldn't see anyone that was sort of empowering me to do anything with my life. I thought, if this is the way that I'm going to be now, especially when I was right in the depths of going to the toilet 40 to 50 times a day, pretty much bed bound, my airways would close, my eyes were hemorrhaged, like it was just really bad. I was fully disabled at that point compared to what I was 6 months before that. And I don't know where the turning point really was. I just felt like I either give up completely or I try and put one foot in front of the other and focus on what I can do as opposed to all the things that I couldn't do. And once I started to focus on those positive aspects and actually seeing a little bit of progression and movement in my life, that's the bits that I started to focus on the most, and it kind of really picked up in momentum.
Did you find that, or was a support network at that time? You said like you couldn't really relate to anyone at that point, but how important was it for you to create a support network of people around you who could, you know, be an ear or a shoulder to kind of lean on? Like, how did you start to do that?
Yeah, that was everything for me. I knew I needed to find real people with real lived experience. Unfortunately, at that time, which would be about 8 to 10 years ago now, there was a lot of taboo around this subject, and people would hide behind their condition as opposed to express anything and show that it's nothing to be ashamed of. I had a really amazing family. Like, my mum's come to every appointment. She still does now. So the family and my siblings and stuff have always really supported me. But with something like this, they can only understand to a certain point. And they can't understand beyond that point, because in reality, I can tell you about my condition, but you don't know what it's like to have a stoma. Yeah, so and it's the same with my family. They can show empathy and care and love, but they can't go beyond that point. So I started to reach out online, and it wasn't to really find someone to connect to with initially. It was more so to just vent the emotions that I was feeling, and they were the ones that were trapped inside me. I felt really negative, and I felt like I needed to blog about this. And for a long time it was private. I didn't show anyone. It was just a place for me to journal, basically digitally. And then I opened it up online, and that's when it started to connect and relate to other people. And that's fundamentally built into what it is today.
And did you find when you started to open it up that there actually were a lot of people in the same kind of position as you, but I guess were just kept quiet or didn't have a platform to kind of reach out to people?
Absolutely, yeah. I think when you do start to open up about sensitive subjects or subjects that you feel shame about, not necessarily everyone feels shamed about, but you feel shamed about, you come to realise that there's a lot of people living with the same thing. Like in the UK alone, there's something like 230,000 people with stomas. If you go into the States, it's in the millions. And it's only when you talk to people, they go, oh, my auntie's got that, or, you know, my brother's got that, or my friend's got that. So you realise that actually it's not an odd thing you've got. You can't help it. You're not in control of your health. And a lot of people are living through those same things. But if you don't talk about it or open up about it, you'll never know.
Yeah. And did you find, obviously, you know, you're a personal trainer and you're in the health and fitness industry. Did you find that movement and training and exercise was, you know, a real big, I guess, key to unlocking the next step for you?
I've always said it from the beginning of my journey, exercise is why I'm alive. The doctors said if I wasn't as fit as I was when I went into that first big surgical bout, I would have died on the bed. They said that because I was given 20%. And he said, if you weren't so fit and healthy and your heart wasn't so strong, you wouldn't be here today. So for me, that's my why. That's my purpose for training personally. You know, obviously, if you move properly, you look after your body, it reflects, it looks after you. And a lot of people don't look after their body. And then they wait until something really extreme happens and then they go and get the help. When really you should put the cogs in place before, and then the likelihood is it would never happen in the first place with a lot of conditions. You know, stuff like diabetes or extreme back pain. These kind of things can be avoided if you look after your body before it happens.
And when we talk about obviously training with a stoma, what things initially had to change for you around training? Did training look the same or similar, or did you have to change it quite a lot? And did you actually have guidance and help along the way in making those adaptations?
I had no help. Luckily, I was already a coach at that point for a good 4 years. So I've been coaching people for like 9 years now. And I've always loved anatomy and physiology. I've always loved it. So when I knew that I was going to get a stoma, I heavily researched in it myself. And I came to realize that there's no support network, and there still isn't now, for when people get a stoma and they leave the hospital, they're on their own. They get given like a little physio bit of paper, and then that is it. And this is why the risk for people living with stomas and getting prolapses and herniations is so high, because they have no support and they don't really know what to do afterwards. Also, when it comes to having a stoma, the way you want to think about it is a hole in your stomach. It will always be a hole in your stomach. It doesn't matter how strong your abdomen gets, you've always got a hole in your belly, because the stoma, for me, there's many different types of stomas, but I have an ileostomy, which is the end of my ileum. So I'm missing a 6-foot organ. So my entire large colon is gone. So my stoma, the little red thing that you see, is basically my small intestine pushed out my abdomen, folded back on itself and sewed in place. So behind that is just space. So it's always wanting to push out. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the way that you approach exercise and training needs to reflect that pressure. So stuff like heavy deadlifts, loading weight on your back in like a barbell back squat, doing like a crunch is a no-no.
So why do you feel that we don't actually have, I guess, the right guidance for someone coming off the back of having a stoma? Why is there not something better in place? Like, what should we be doing? Or, you know, what needs to be there to help more and more people actually come out and find exercise and, you know, get on the path to that?
I think it's a couple of things. For one, there's knowledge. So not a lot of people will go near someone with a medical condition because they think, oh, I don't really know how to navigate that. So instead of like going away and doing research as a coach of how you could help someone, you reject them. The problem is, if you reject that person and you were the first person they felt safe to come and talk to, they probably won't return to exercise again. So education's a big one. Money is the other one. People that come out the NHS are coming out of a stress system. The NHS hasn't got the money to fundamentally support people afterwards, so people have to go into private healthcare. And it's just a case of having more coaches, I feel, that understand stomas and are more willing to coach people with it, because they're not unable to do stuff. It just needs a different direction. So it just needs like a coach to be like, right, we're not going to do this movement, we'll do this one instead. Yeah. But it's them understanding what that looks like. And that's why I stepped into that space, because I've not only got the lived experience, but I've also coached over 200 people with stomas now.
And are there any specific, I guess, courses for coaches to go and do around training people with stomas?
No, but I should make one.
There you go. The next idea.
That's the next business. Yeah, for sure. But no, it would be a great thing if there was more openness for people to coach people with medical conditions, because quite often they feel like an outsider and they don't really know how to approach even coming to a gym and getting coached by someone. Whereas in reality, if you find the right coach and you find a person that understands it, there's a big market there for coaches.
So for you now, I mean, I think it's close to 6 million people following around social media on various different platforms. Do you think we're getting to a point now where it is more talked about and it is more mainstream, and, you know, you've done an amazing job of kind of bringing it out there? are we getting somewhere with, I guess, more education and more awareness around IBD and around stomas?
Definitely. I think, again, when it comes to raising awareness, the more noise that you can create, the better. I've kind of tried to make stomas cool. So the way that I make my content is, yes, it's to empower people and to educate people that may have just had a stoma or have had a stoma for a long time and they want tips and tricks. But it's also to educate people that don't have a clue what a stoma even is so they can look and watch my content and go, I've learned something new today. Because fundamentally the numbers of bowel health problems are going up and up and up. So you're better off watching something just in case you're ever found in that situation, because it can be very isolating, like we spoke at the beginning. And people just don't really know what it's like to live with one. So all of a sudden you could have one fitted tomorrow and you're like, who do I even speak to about this? So to be able to go and watch a video, you haven't got to talk to anyone, you just watch a video and learn, kind of build your confidence up before you've even had one fitted.
Yeah. What would you say, I guess, the three biggest myths around having a stoma?
That it's something that will limit you. So it's a limitation. People think, oh, I've got a stoma now, I can't do this, and this. Like, since I've had my stoma, I've ridden 120 miles on my bike. I've done half marathons. I'm going to be looking to do an ultra marathon at the end of this year. I've done skydives, done a lot. So limitations, I think, is a big one. Another one would be age. So quite often people think that people of a certain age just don't really get sick. Babies have stomas. Like, do you know what I mean? Illness has no preference.
I actually saw on your social media there was a cat with one the other day.
Cats can have stomas.
Yeah,
So like cat had a urostomy, right? So like definitely kind of like just breaking down that taboo further around the age limitations of how you can be impacted. And I guess like the last one could be people actually understanding what a stoma is in terms of its function. So people quite often ask me, like a big one would be, can you fart? Yes. Yeah. It just comes out of here. Can you swim? Yes. Like, it's just real basic stuff people just think you can't do anymore, which is quite interesting.
Yeah. And what would you say the biggest thing that you've learned on a personal kind of level, like since this journey started in 2013? What's the biggest, I guess, positive takeaway from the experience?
That anything's possible. Like, if I were to revert back to when I was at my mum's house after my surgery, I used to just sit in my mum's window upstairs just crying, just thinking like, is this kind of like the way my life's going to be now? Because so much was happening in such a short period of time and there was no light. I kind of like lost hope. So like, I guess like I'm really proud of the process of where I am now. I don't often think about that. Like, you just go through life, don't you? I always say to people that are living with sickness, like my clients now, they're amazing people. They've gone through like stuff that you wouldn't believe unless you really lived that and saw that person go through that hardship. I guess it's kind of like there's a huge element of just being proud of how far I've come and how many people I've helped. I don't think of that either. I kind of just like make all this content, do all these things, but don't realize like how many people that impacts. And that's like a really nice thing. So I think like I've kept to my core values from when I started social media of wanting to help people, and I've never diverted away from that. No matter what the business is or anything, it's always been to help people.
And you mentioned about helping people, and we spoke right at the start of this about you having a number of people down here at the gym today. Just dive a little bit deeper into the community, I guess, that is Mr. Colitis Crohn's now.
It's an amazing one. It's like, it makes my hair stand up when I think about my clients, just because they've been through so much and I can really relate to them in terms of what they've been through. Like, there's people here now that have nearly died. They've been through extreme bouts of cancer, nearly passed away. And to just see them now come to something like this and realize that they can do stuff and they feel like a sense of like normality again. That's kind of what I'm trying to help people build. Like, to know that someone could put on a product that I've developed or have a product that I've developed, they put it on and think, wow, that's changed my life. For me to know that I've formed that is like insane. To have something that powerful that you can hand over. I think like the community is just, it's just a real special place of people that are very vulnerable but now feel safe.
Yeah. So I guess when you think about it, what you've done is created a world that you would have loved to have had right back in 2013. The support networks, the people around you, I guess the training side of things, the different products and stuff that you have now, being able to kind of live that journey and then provide, like you say, and help people, it's been amazing. If someone right now had a stoma fitted tomorrow, obviously with all these different things now available to them, what would be your biggest bit of advice for someone?
Give it time and be patient initially. You've got to remember, when you have something internally changed, you can't see it. So if you take a stoma, from the aesthetic of the outside, you may look quite healed in terms of like scar tissue and whatnot, but internally you're black and blue, but you can't see it. So that process of allowing your body to recover, you must be patient. People want to like get back to work and get back to their normal life, but it takes a long time. Like my recovery was 6 to 8 months. And I remember at the beginning part of my recovery as well, my nurse said to me, which I remember stuck with me like in the front of my mind the whole time, and it's so silly, but it really pissed me off. She said to me at the beginning, she was like, "You're never going to have a six-pack like Peter Andre again." And at that time, they saw it like that. So it's like, that's funny, that's a joke. But to me, I was like a 20-year-old lad that's just had everything stripped away from me. I was 5.5 stone, sat in a hospital bed. I was like broken by that. But that was kind of like my driving force. So instead of that being something that's like limited me and changed my belief system, it actually drove me. So if someone was sat there now, post-surgery, biggest bit of advice would be patient, allow time, and talk to people. Talk to other people that have that lived experience. Join a community like ours where you're part of something and you're learning from people that already have that lived experience.
Yeah. Now, going back a little bit, we mentioned about training and kind of adaptations around that. What about nutrition? And just general nutrition, but also sports nutrition for someone, again, with a stoma? And obviously you have a big background in that, studying at university. But what things do people need to be aware of there? Do we need to make adaptations? How does that work on that nutritional front?
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to food, a lot of people take what the medical system take as gospel. So when you leave hospital, you get given this little bit of paper and it has a list of foods that you should be eating and a list of foods to avoid. And a lot of people look at that and then never eat stuff like sweet corn, peas, mushroom, nuts, seeds ever again. Now, if you imagine removing some of those like micronutrients out of your diet completely, that's really bad for you long term. So a lot of people that have stomas have what I call the beige diet. Easy, digestible foods, that's what they sort of live on. White meat, fish. And when I left hospital and I got told that, I looked at it once and thought, yeah, I'm not doing that. Because I thought if I remove all these things out of my diet, that's going to have a really bad long-term effect on me. So I done my own research and I done my own testing on myself. And what I came to realize, it's not actually to do with certain foods. Yes, certain foods can have an impact, like high volumes of garlic can be really gassy for me. So my bag will blow up, I'll produce more gas. But I more so have to chew my food properly. So I use the 20 chew rule. So everything I eat pretty much I ground down to like a complete pulp. And if I'm introducing a new food, let's say I want cashew nuts, I love cashew nuts, I'll only have like 5 for the first time. I'll see how my body responds and then I'll have more. And the reason why is because your stoma, my new bum hole, is very small. It's like tiny, like the end of my small finger. So if I ate loads of like desiccated coconut, that could like snowball and block the output. And then I will literally have no output coming and I'd have to go to hospital and get it open back up again, which would be really bad and it's really dangerous.
So when it comes to a performance standpoint, we even think about caffeine, pre-workout, things like that. Again, is it just a trial and error thing?
Yeah, for everyone. And everyone's slightly different. Everyone has different sensitivities. Just like you, You might be really hypersensitive to caffeine and I'm not, but it can affect my output. So it could make it really runny. Like if I had like a pre-workout, it could go straight through me. Like for instance, the first time I ate beetroot, I thought I was losing blood. Like it just comes straight through me within 10 minutes and it was in my bag, like, whoa. So there is definitely a trial and error game in terms of what works and what doesn't work, and everyone's very different.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned earlier, obviously, being an entrepreneur is one of the big things for you currently. Give us a bit of an insight into, I guess, your businesses that you currently have.
So I currently have like 5 or 6 revenue income streams. The front face of what I do is social media, right? So I've got like over 6 million followers. That's like the front face of what I do. And effectively, I make revenue from views from those channels. And I work with brands. So for instance, I'm an ambassador for the medical company that produce my bags. And I'm also an ambassador for Paramount Pictures. So like these are like longer term brand deals that I do. And they're amazing. Those opportunities have come from the growth of my channels. But I never wanted to be fully reliant on social media being my revenue stream, because you never know what's going to happen, right? Like TikTok, there's talks of the whole thing's being deleted. So if you're stuck doing just that, it can be dangerous. So I decided, as I started to go through my journey, that I wanted to produce my own businesses. Online coaching being one of them, where I can directly help people from my experience of having lived experience and being a coach. But I also came to realize that there were certain things missing, what I thought were basic standards that we deserved as patients, and they just weren't being provided. So the first one was a belt, which is basically a brace that helps you with herniation and prolapses. Makes you feel confident so you can wear clothes and not have a massive bag hanging out. Not that I'm ashamed of my bag, but when I'm reaching for something in the top shelf in the supermarket, I don't want my bag hanging out. So I designed this brace, and it's been an incredible business. I've sold them in every country you can think of since they've come out, and that's been really successful. And again, it's a product that I know directly helps consumers, and I've had that feedback, which is amazing. My other product is a rehydration solution. People that don't have a large colon anymore and have colorectal base or digestive based problems often struggle with their salt levels. When you have your large colon removed like me, one of the primary goals and sort of roles that your large intestine has is to regulate your body's salt. Without it, you have to regulate it. And most people, probably I would say about 95% of people living with stomas are dehydrated heavily, because your output's different, so it's more watery, so you're more susceptible to dehydration. So Hydrostomate was designed with King's College University, the lead dietitian. It took 2.5 years to engineer, and that is basically your full hit of everything you need from a micronutrient standpoint to give you rehydration. It's great for people with stomas. It's also great for people with a hangover.
That was going to be my first question, actually, is could someone without a stoma still benefit from that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just going to get you optimally rehydrated. I would say like general pop are always dehydrated. They don't drink enough fluid, right? So you could have a hydrostomate in the morning and it would bring you to optimal hydration. I think an important thing to mention is the formula is engineered from a formula from King's College. No, from what is it? St. Mark's. Mm-hmm. So St. Mark's is the leading hospital in the country for colorectal problems. When you leave St. Mark's, or when you leave as a stoma patient any hospital, they want you to drink St. Mark's solution, which is disgusting. It's like loads of salt, water, glucose, sodium, just stirred into like 2 litres, and you have to have that daily. Unpalatable, no one does it. So that's where the kind of concept was engineered from.
Yep. So looking ahead now to, I guess, the rest of 2024, what's on the radar for you? Is there any kind of goals or business ventures and stuff that you want to try and tick off the list before the end of the year?
Yeah, so there's more products. I've got more products that are in development now, which is exciting, which is going to directly help people. So I'm always looking to scale that and make the Mr. Colitis Crohn's range bigger, just because I know how valuable they are. I want to build my online coaching channel like I am right now. The platform's growing amazingly. I coach people in Australia, New Zealand, across America, across Europe. Kind of want to continue to build that and just basically build the businesses I have right now. That's kind of my goal moving into this year, and maybe a couple of holidays.
Very nice.
A bit of rest as well.
Yeah, too right. What would be your biggest bit of, I guess, business advice for anyone?
employ people because I think when you're an entrepreneur, you're very driven to have control over everything because you want it done a certain way. And you can do that to a point, and then you come to realize without the right team behind you, you can't grow and focus on the parts of the business that are failing. So employ people that are going to do an amazing job and probably a better job than you. Like, I openly say I'm dyslexic. I've never been good at big emails and writing. I hate it. So I employ people that are very good at that. I hate doing my accounts at the end of the year. Get an amazing accountant that you just pay a retainer per month to do that for you so you don't have to worry about it. So it's very much like, if you want to grow something to a point of where it is big, you need to make sure that you have team in order to do that.
Yeah. And if someone wants to kind of find out more about you and your coaching program, what is the best way for them to be heading?
Just probably social media. Just send me an email, drop me a message on social media. I'm very active. I learned from a guy called Gary V. Do you know who Gary V is?
Yeah.
So I learned from him. He's got over 15 million subs, I think, on Instagram alone. Like, he's a massive creator. And I remember I DM'd him and he sent me a video message back. And I'm like, this guy's got 15 million followers, right? And I've always done that from the beginning, particularly after I saw Gary Vee doing it. That connection with people behind your channel, doesn't matter how many numbers you have, whether you've got 3,000 or 6 million, that's 3,000 people that you could be directly connecting with. Talk to them. Yeah, like, talk to them. They might not even not even from a business perspective, but just offering that help to people, it could turn into a business prospect in 12 months time. And that's happened many a time where I've made that extra effort to connect with people, and then it's sort of come back around full circle.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned a number of times about doing your own research around whether it be training, nutrition or whatever, around IBD or around having a stoma. If people are looking for that information, where is the best place for them to go?
Probably, again, charities, asking other patients, that kind of stuff, you're going to get the best knowledge and advice from. I think with anything like this, like from a training perspective as well, if I could go back to when I first started training, I should have got a coach straight away. I always say to people, like, even with you guys here, like, if you don't know what you're doing within that area, go and see an expert that does. Like, it makes complete logical sense, right? Like, if you don't, you might be really good, being an IT engineer. I wouldn't walk into their world and just know it straight away. It's the same within the health and fitness industry. Go and get a professional that knows what they're doing to help you straight away, and you're straight away at an advantage, rather than learning for 2 years, getting it wrong and wasting your time in the gym. Get someone who knows what they're doing.
Perfect. Mesha, thank you very much indeed. I appreciate your time.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for
having me. Awesome chatting to you. Thank you very much. And there you go, ladies and gents, in the books, number 13. If you want to find out any more about Mesha, obviously head to his socials, like, subscribe, follow us on socials as you do normally, and we'll see you again very, very soon.